Alright, let's dive deeper into this because this is really getting under my skin. Disney Star Wars has reached a point where they're not just scraping the bottom of the barrel, they're digging so deep they might as well be trying to reach China. And now, after years of disappointing projects that have left fans furious, they're throwing out the idea of adapting Knights of the Old Republic. It's like they've never learned anything. They've consistently shown that they don't understand what makes Star Wars work, and if they think they can just waltz in and mess with something as beloved, iconic as Knights of the Old Republic, then it's time for a reality check. Let's talk about Kathleen Kennedy for a moment because she is the face of the disaster that is Disney Star Wars. Remember when she spoke about a 10-year plan back in 2019? Yeah, that didn't age well, did it? We've seen more flop after flop, from the rise of Skywalker to the dumpster fire that was the Book of Boba Fett. And now they're saying they want to adapt Knights of the Old Republic, which for anyone who's actually played the game is an absolute goldmine of storytelling. It's rich, deep, and filled with characters that resonate. Revan, the fallen Jedi turned Sith Lord, is one of the most compelling characters in Star Wars lore, and for good reason. He's complex, conflicted, and the story surrounding him is something that should be handled with care. But Disney's track record with handling characters like this is, well, let's just say they've butchered more fan favorites than I can count. The problem with Disney Star Wars is that they've shown time and time again that they don't respect the source material, whether it's through the forced political messaging that doesn't fit with the established universe or the constant flailing attempts to make things diverse. Without really understanding what made Star Wars diverse to begin with, they just don't get it. And the idea that they'd take Knights of the Old Republic, a game that has been part of the fabric of the Star Wars fandom for years, and slap their own mess on it. That's a horrifying thought. It's like handing someone an untouched masterpiece and asking them to improve it. What we're going to get is another butchered version, stripped of everything that made it great in the first place. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room. If they do end up making this Knights of the Old Republic adaptation, we're going to see some of the most lackluster renditions of these beloved characters. I think about it, Revan, a character with one of the richest, most layered stories in Star Wars, is probably going to end up as a half-baked shell of his former self, surrounded by a cast of forgettable characters that Disney can't seem to flesh out properly. We saw this with The Mandalorian. Season 1 was solid, sure, but by Season 3, they'd turned Mando into a glorified babysitter. The sheer incompetence of the writers to understand what made these characters work is mind-boggling. But it's not just about Revan, it's about the whole Knights of the Old Republic era. This wasn't just a story about one character, it was about the entire era. The Sith Wars, the rise and fall of the Sith Empire, the clash between the Jedi and the Sith. It was a complex and engaging narrative that stood on its own without needing to rely on the Skywalker saga. And now Disney, whose creativity has been stifled by their obsession with trying to make everything fit into their existing narratives, is about to destroy that legacy too. They've already ruined Boba Fett, do we even need to talk about that? And they butchered the Mandalorians in Season 3. And now they want to mess with Knights of the Old Republic. I can already feel the cringe. But here's the kicker: Disney doesn't even care about doing this right. They're going to churn out a watered-down, shallow version of Knights of the Old Republic because they think that throwing money at it is the solution. They've already demonstrated time and time again that they don't care about what the fans want. They care about what will sell. But when you've built a fan base on nostalgia, and that fan base watches everything you put out just to see if it will be any good, spoiler alert, it won't be, eventually they're going to stop caring. Star Wars fans are loyal, but even loyalty has its limits. And let's not forget how Disney handles criticism. Instead of listening to valid concerns and taking responsibility for their mistakes, they've turned to attacking the fans who dare to speak out. Whether it's labeling people as misogynistic or racist, when they criticize bad writing or poor decisions, they've made it clear that they don't care about meaningful conversation. They just want you to shut up and consume. It's no wonder so many fans have walked away from the franchise. They've been treated like garbage by the very company that should be respecting their love for Star Wars. I don't even need to get into the Acolyte or Skeleton Crew. We've already seen how Disney has mishandled Star Wars content over the years, and I'm sorry to say that I don't expect Knights of the Old Republic to be any different. I just don't trust them. Maybe I'm being overly cynical, but at this point Star Wars feels like it's been milked dry. There's nothing left but a hollow shell of a franchise that Disney refuses to let go of, even though it's clearly out of ideas. They're so desperate to keep the Star Wars machine running that they're willing to drag the name through the mud just to get a few more bucks out of it. So, here's my take: if you love Knights of the Old Republic, you need to brace yourself, because Disney will either ruin it or they'll make something so derivative and bland that it'll barely resemble what made the game so special in the first place. Either way, I just hope they stay far, far away from the Knights of the Old Republic lore. Let it be what it was: a masterpiece that doesn't need Disney's meddling hands.